Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has ordered the IDF to prepare for a wide campaign in Lebanon, telling the high command that the situation cannot continue, while commando raids and airstrikes on Hezbollah positions have already begun in earnest. Air raid alarms sounded in central Israel on Sunday morning as a surface-to-surface missile was launched from Yemen, falling in an open area near the city of Lod. Last week also saw intense operations in the Gaza Strip, including permission for the publication of a recording Hamas made of one of Israel's hostages, which is the first sign of life his family has ever seen from him in almost 1 year. All of this is happening as the world watches with increasing concern as Iran inches ever closer to the ability to build a nuclear weapon. Let's dive into the details. I'm Yair Pinto, and this is your Boots on the Ground report about what is happening in Israel on the 345th day of the war against Hamas, Hezbollah, Iran, and all its terror proxies in Yemen, Iraq, and Syria. Before we get started, please take a minute and click the subscribe button so that you will never miss another episode of Boots on the Ground. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu led a strategic security discussion on Thursday with the heads of the security establishment. During this meeting, he said the situation in the north cannot continue. We need to change the balance and we must return the residents home. This will not be done without changing the balance against Hezbollah. The IDF should prepare for a broad campaign in Lebanon. This came as reports have surfaced that talks led by the American envoy to the region, Amos Hochstein, in the hope of reaching a diplomatic settlement, are not progressing. Although Israel is currently committed to giving the American efforts more time, the Israeli government has communicated to the Americans that without solid signs of progress, there will be no choice but to resort to a broad campaign in the north. Other senior Israeli officials are quietly warning that a military campaign against Hezbollah is inevitable at this point and will start in a few weeks or maybe months. In the midst of Thursday's discussion, an understanding was formed that the campaign in the north will be built on two pillars: international legitimacy, on which Israel has been working quietly for the past 3 months, and at the same time, the management of the war economy. On that note, senior IDF officers reported that the supply of weapons and ammunition that the IDF has at its disposal is adequate for the task at hand. Although there is currently no final decision to launch a campaign in Lebanon, Netanyahu has adopted the IDF's line and instructed the army to prepare for a broad campaign. In Israel, the strategic goal has been set to change the balance against Hezbollah and at the same time to encourage the Americans to hurry up with a diplomatic move to decide where they are going. Here at TBN Israel, we will continue to update you on this topic, but you can stay updated on everything related to Israel in real time. For regular reports on what is happening in Israel, go to our website at www.tbnisrael.com/news. Keeping our focus on the north, media portals in Lebanon reported on Saturday evening that there had been unusual attacks by the IDF in two villages located about 150 kilometers north of the border with Israel. It was also reported that the IDF attacked a site in the Bekaa Valley about 80 kilometers north of the border. The Saudi news portal El Hadet reported that the remote targets were attacked as part of a wave that included 11 different locations within an hour. The IDF confirmed that they had attacked Hezbollah's military depots both in the Bekaa Valley and in the Baalbek district, along with several locations that were attacked simultaneously in southern Lebanon. The wave of attacks came in retaliation for a Hezbollah attack on Israel, which included 55 rockets fired into the Galilee earlier in the day. On Sunday morning, another barrage of 40 rockets were fired into Israel from Lebanon. A cabinet meeting dealing with the campaign in the north was supposed to take place on Sunday, but it was postponed amidst reports that Netanyahu will propose a new officially stated war aim that the residents of the northern communities of Israel will be able to return safely to their homes. This largely symbolic step sends a signal that as we get closer to the end of the campaign in Gaza, the focus shifts to the north. It is also important to mention that the stepped-up attacks by Hezbollah follow the IDF's highly unusual operation deep behind enemy lines in Syria last Thursday. This operation included airstrikes on several Iranian-backed militias in Syria, but as it turns out, these strikes were important by themselves, were actually a cover for the real objective. While the Syrian army was distracted by these airstrikes, teams of elite IDF commando units descended from helicopters to overcome the guards at the entrance to an underground missile factory built by the Islamic Revolutionary Guards Corps near the city of Hama. This facility has reportedly been built after Israel's highly successful campaign in recent years to destroy Iran's above-ground weapons manufacturing infrastructure in Syria. According to foreign media reports, the IDF commandos were able to penetrate the facility's security, take possession of several pieces of specialized equipment and other intelligence materials, and then set explosive charges that destroyed the facility after they've extracted themselves out of it. According to those same reports, this facility was designed to manufacture precision-guided missiles for use by Hezbollah. Iran used to build these weapons in their own territory and then try and move them across the Iraqi and Syrian deserts into Hezbollah in Lebanon. But this route was exposed to Israeli attacks, so the Iranians decided to build these weapons closer to Hezbollah. Now, they will probably try something else because this idea didn't work out so well for them. According to the foreign media reports, Israeli commando raids on this facility was highly unusual and demonstrates that Israeli intelligence has penetrated deep into the Iranian network. American officials also expressed admiration for the raid, noting that there were no Israeli casualties and that the intelligence materials recovered from the raid will be helpful in locating other such facilities and planning future operations. Charles Lister, a Middle East expert from the Middle East Institute think tank in Washington, told the New York Times on Thursday that in the first round of airstrikes, 4 Syrian positions were destroyed in the Masayaf area, including an air defense site. In the second round, a building in a complex connected to underground tunnels was hit, and in the third, helicopters crossed into the Syrian territory and landed several dozen commandos near the bunkers. According to him, while they were advancing in the bunkers, Israeli drones attacked Syrian army forces that were called to the area. I think if someone made a movie depicting these events, it would be criticized for being absurdly unrealistic. But it's not the first time that the IDF has done the impossible, and I'm sure it won't be the last time either. Switching our focus to events on Sunday morning, when residents of Tel Aviv and Gush Dan region of central Israel were awakened at 6:30 a.m., including myself, by air raid sirens as a surface-to-surface missile fired by the Houthis in Yemen penetrated the Israeli airspace. The missile eventually landed in an open area near the city of Lod. The incident has raised questions about whether this was a cruise missile or a ballistic missile. The IDF knows how to intercept both, and many such weapons launched from Yemen have been intercepted outside the Israeli airspace, but this one was not. There was speculation on Sunday morning as to why, with one possibility being that the missile changed course after it was launched and came at Israel from an unexpected direction. In any case, this is the first such incident since the Israeli Air Force destroyed the port facilities of Hodeidah 2 months ago in retaliation for a Houthi drone attack that killed an Israeli civilian in Tel Aviv. The Houthis vowed to take revenge for the destruction of this port, which they used to bring weapons into Yemen from Iran. Sunday morning strikes appear to have been an attempt to follow through on these threats, and it remains to be seen if more such attacks are coming. However, the Home Front Command did not change the threat level, and schools, businesses, and public services remain open. As usual, paramedics and ambulances crews from Magen David Adom were the first to arrive at the scene of the missile impact, although there had not been any reports of casualties from the strike. The Magen David Adom teams were sent anyway, just to be sure, and if there had been any casualties, they would have been treated as those who were attacked by terrorist attacks, accidents, and natural disasters. Magen David Adom has over 35,000 volunteers serving every community in Israel, treating those who are hurt in these kinds of violent incidents and accidents, and also assisting with other medical emergencies. Sometimes that includes delivering babies in cars that stopped on the side of the road on the way to the hospital because the baby just couldn't wait, or if someone had a heart attack or a flare-up of some other chronic health condition. Magen David Adom relies entirely on donations. So if you want to make a donation to help them with their work, you can visit www.savinglivesinisrael.org. Switching our focus now to events in the Gaza Strip. Over the weekend, IDF forces carried out extensive operations in the Tel Sultan neighborhood of Rafah. They reportedly eliminated over 100 terrorists, as well as demolished several tunnels and bunkers, launch sites for rockets, and caches of weapons and ammunition. An attack by the Air Force also hit a Hamas command and control center that had been set up inside a complex of buildings that had previously been used by the Suwada El Zaytun school in Gaza City. The IDF spokesperson's office said of this strike that it was conducted in a targeted manner and under the intelligence guidance of the IDF, the Shin Bet, and the Southern Command. The statement added that this command and control complex was used by Hamas terrorists to plan and carry out terrorist operations against the IDF forces and the State of Israel. Speaking of attacks against Israel, on Saturday afternoon, a rocket was fired from the area of the Gaza City neighborhoods of El Mansia, Sheikh Zayed, and Bet Lahia. IDF spokesman in Arabic, Avichai Aderi, warned the residents of these neighborhoods to evacuate as soon as possible, as the IDF would be moving in to remove the threat from this rocket launching site and any other Hamas operational infrastructure that they will find there. Here at TBN Israel, we will continue to update you about what is happening in the Gaza Strip. Please help us by sharing our videos on YouTube and subscribing to this YouTube channel. You can also donate to us to the link that you see at the bottom of the screen, or go to our website at www.tbn.org/Israel. On that note, I want to turn this next segment over to my colleague, Mati Shoshani.
Russia is once more aiding Iran in advancing their nuclear program. There's a growing concern in the United States and the UK that in exchange for the ballistic missiles that Russia has received from Iran, the Kremlin in turn may assist Iran with its quest for nuclear weapons. A report that came out Saturday evening in the British news portal The Guardian and Bloomberg News Agency is giving details of these concerns emerging days after American Secretary of State Anthony Blinken has visited London for meetings with British officials. During his visit, Blinken warned that in the shadow of this missile deal, Iran and Russia are increasing their cooperation in nuclear-related fields as well. He also said that Iran is receiving assistance from Russia to build its space program, which is notable as Iran claimed to have successfully launched a satellite into orbit this last week. Experts who spoke on condition of anonymity were quoted in the Bloomberg report saying that intelligence information confirming these fears has surfaced in recent weeks. Blinken said that the US has warned Iran through back channels against this grave escalation, and other countries, including the UK, France, and Germany, have also imposed additional sanctions on the Iranians in response to its supplying Russia with missiles. The European Union is reportedly considering taking even further moves. And meanwhile, Western intelligence agencies now estimate that Iran needs only a few days, or at most 2 weeks, to enrich enough uranium to the level of 90% purity that it would need to create an atomic bomb. And now, back to Yair Pinto.
Here at TBN Israel, we will continue to update you on this topic going forward. Once again, I will ask you to please help us by sharing our videos on YouTube and subscribing to this YouTube channel. Click on the subscribe button so you won't miss any videos, and together we will share the truth as far as possible. Now there is one more story to report, and it's about Matan Angrest, an IDF soldier who was kidnapped into the Gaza Strip by Hamas on October 7, 2023. Over the weekend, his family allowed the publication of a recording of his kidnapping that Hamas made for propaganda purposes, which shows Matan directly addressing Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and asking him to return him home to his family and agree to the hostage deal. This is the first sign of life for Matan that his family has received since October 7th. Before this, they didn't know if he was dead or alive. I'm asking you to please help us share the truth of what is happening in this conflict. It's so important that the world will understand who we are fighting and who Hamas really is. Please unite in prayer for the peace of Israel, for the hostages to be returned to their homes, to their loved ones, for the safety of the IDF soldiers, and please pray for the peace of Jerusalem.